Shocking unemployment numbers, low growth and state-owned enterprises, billions of rand in debt. Who'd want to be a finance minister? Well, Tito Mboweni is facing the tough task of balancing government's books when he'll be delivering his medium-term budget policy statement in Parliament this afternoon. Our team is in Parliament ahead of the mini-budget. Lindsay Dentlinger has been up and about since 6 o'clock this morning, and also there is our business editor, Devin Murugan. Lindsay, good morning. At this hour, thank you very much for joining us on today. We are, of course, looking ahead as we preview Tito Mboweni's medium-term budget. We're not the only ones, as South Africans, who are watching this very closely. Investors, ratings agencies like Moody's, who are due to issue their verdict on our status, investment status on Friday, are all watching.
Good morning, Dan. Yes, certainly a lot of people watching. As I said to you a little earlier today, that some of my colleagues, saying in the past, medium-term budget, so what, who cares, and not so much attention paid to it. But if ever there was a time where a medium-term budget policy statement is going to be watched and closely watched and dissected, it's today. And you're so right, the finance minister has the most unenviable task. But with me, I have the official opposition. They say they have an alternative plan for whatever Tito Mboweni is going to serve up this afternoon to counter that high unemployment and all that low growth that we keep talking about. With me is Geordin Lewis, the DA's Shadow Minister for Finance. Geordin, thank you for joining us this morning. Earlier this week, you tabled to the media an alternative budget at which you put unemployment high on that list, but you want to cut the public service by almost 10,000 jobs. In a climate that we are dealing with, is that really a viable alternative?
Well, it's not so much a viable alternative as it's the only alternative remaining to the government. The problem is that we are now spending so much on the credit card that there is less money available for the basics like education and healthcare and housing and so on, the services that the poor really need. So we can't carry on spending an enormous amount of money. We now spend about 46 rand out of every 100 rand that the government has on salaries. That's just simply unsustainable. On top of that 46 rand out of every 100, we then bail out zombie state-owned entities like SAA and SA Express and Eskom. So what the minister has to achieve today is to rein in our public debt. And the way to do that is to stop bailing out those state-owned companies and to cut back the civil service. Now, the proposal that we have made would protect basic services. All frontline delivery staff, like teachers and nurses and doctors, would be fully protected. But it would cut at the highest echelons of the civil service, where there is a lot of evidence that there's a huge amount of waste and overemployment. But
fewer jobs means less money coming to the fiscus through taxes.
Well, there's fewer jobs in the public sector. Remember, these public sector jobs are paid with taxes anyway, so there's no effect on tax revenue. What happens is, when you pay those expensive civil service jobs, there is less tax revenue to spend on other things. And that's the situation we're in now. We are so high in debt, we're spending so much money on Eskom and SAA and others, and on all of these salaries, that there's nothing left to spend on the things that we really need to be doing, like infrastructure investment that really gets the economy growing. And we've got to free up some cash to actually invest in productive assets and services. And the way to do that is to cut the debt and cut the public service wage bill.
Freeing up extra cash, as you say, but we're not going to see the end of more money going into state-owned enterprises. The DA already saying doesn't totally agree with Pravin Gordhan's plan to unbundle Eskom. What's your alternative?
Well, this is the crisp choice that we're putting before the minister. We believe that it's ethically indefensible to carry on supporting SAA, for example, when you are closing public hospitals and clinics and firing doctors and nurses and teachers in our schools and slashing, today we hear, slashing the budget for new school building. This is indefensible. It's ethically wrong to do that while you're at the same time subsidizing SAA. So that has to stop. And we hope that it does stop today in the medium-term budget.
Highly unlikely that the minister is going to announce putting SAA into business rescue, which is what you're arguing for, and,
yes,
and privatising Eskom. What are you hoping he's going to say with regard to these SOEs?
I would hope, I would ask him and hope that he will say that he is going to shut down SA Express, which is the smallest of the airlines, and it would send a great signal to all of the other SOEs that we mean, that the Minister means business, and that we're not going to accept these further bailouts anymore. And if he doesn't take action on SA Express, then he should absolutely send a powerful signal by putting SAA into business rescue. And of course we then need to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Eskom. Now the Minister the Minister of Public Enterprises announced a plan yesterday for the future of Eskom, and we hope that they make some serious progress on splitting up the company and ending the Eskom monopoly, which we have been calling for the longest time, as you know, very quickly, because if we don't, then that is going to be the thing that drags our country down with it.
Dan, so that's the DA's position on what they want to hear Finance Minister Tito Mboweni say this afternoon. But as we know, we heard in Parliament just last night that political interference is what's hampering the Eskom board from taking the drastic action that's required to make that less of a noose around government's neck.
And Lindsay, of course, we know that big elephant in the room as Tito Mboweni delivers his medium-term budget is around the failing state-owned enterprises, Eskom, of course, being one of the worst offenders, so to speak, in that regard. And now with those accusations of political interference are not going to help. Should we expect, I mean, from what you've picked up in Parliament over the last few weeks, Lindsay, you've been covering a lot of the discussions around Eskom's, the bailouts of 59 billion rand. Should we expect a little bit more details financially of how Eskom is going to be rescued?
Well, typically this is not the budget where the Minister announces major bailouts. But yes, as we know, Eskom, well, Parliament just last week, or at least the National Assembly, signed off on a 59 billion rand bailout for Eskom. That still needs to pass through the National Council of Provinces. And just right now, while I'm talking to you, the other business of Parliament continues, and that's the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. I just spoke to Mkhuleko Shlengwa, the chairperson of that committee, a little earlier this morning. And right now, as we speak, he has some of those SOEs before that committee. One of them, SA Express, which Geordin Hill-Lewis here alongside me has just said the DA wants to see shut down, to come and explain what they are going to do to rescue the situations, because as we know, some of them have not submitted financial statements to Parliament because they are not going concerns and they cannot sign off on their financial statements, and also so now they're falling foul of Parliament for not handing over those documents either. So right now the Scopa is dealing with some of those very crucial issues that you mentioned there with regard to state-owned entities.
Thank you very much. Lindsay Dentlinger in Parliament. We'll be talking to her again, hopefully in an hour's time, as we continue building up towards the medium-term budget.